Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Lee here. Welcome to my weekend books for the final full week of September 2024. But first of all, let me address the elephant in the room. And that is, I'm in the process of getting crowns on my front teeth. And so, for a while, the next month or so, it's going to look a little bit weird because I've got temporary crowns on right now. And I'm probably going to sound a little weird, at least until I get used to these things being in my mouth. And then I'll have to start all over at the end of October when I get the permanent crowns in. So, bear with me. We'll get through it. Anywho, my weekend books. Well, first of all, let me start by saying this has been a kind of wild week. I had this dentist appointment, which I was really kind of anxious about. That was on Friday. Yes, it was on Friday. And so I'm always anxious about going to the dentist. That same day, or actually the evening before, my area where I live got put under a boil water notice because there was a water main break. So I couldn't drink any of the water that I had, without boiling it. And then we had a hurricane come through on the same day. So it's been a wild week. But my reading hasn't been too wild. I started the week with a reread of Stephen King's The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. And I chose this because the day I started it, 21 September, was Stephen King's birthday. And I was like, let me look for something to reread of his that's not 1,000 pages. I gave this 4 stars. I loved this better on the reread. I think because I'd grown since I read it the first time. This was published, copyright 1999, so I would have read it 20 years ago or so. I'm going to have to get my glasses out. It's still a little dark here, even though it doesn't look like it. I really loved it the second time around. I think I got so much more than I did the first time. The brochure promised a moderate to difficult 6-mile hike on the main New Hampshire branch of the Appalachian Trail, where 19-year-old Tricia McFarland was to spend Saturday with her older brother Pete and her recently divorced mother. When she wanders off to escape their constant bickering, then tries to catch up by attempting a shortcut through the woods, Trish strays deeper into a wilderness full of peril and terror, especially when night falls. Just want to emphasize here, Trish is 9 years old, and that's what makes this book so remarkable. Tricia has only her wits for navigation, only her ingenuity as a defense against the elements, only her courage and faith to withstand her mounting fear. For solace, see, my S's are fucked up, she tunes her Walkman to broadcasts of Boston Red Sox games and the gritty performances of her hero, number 36, relief pitcher Tom Gordon. And when her radio's reception begins to fade, Tricia imagines that Tom Gordon is with her, her key to surviving an enemy known only by the slaughtered animals and mangled trees in its wake. My favorite part of this book is at the very end with a very minor character who plays a major role. And I can't tell you what it is without spoiling the whole book. So, we are with Trish as she navigates the woods and tries to find her way to safety. And what I love about this is that King labels the chapters as innings. So first inning, second inning, etc., etc., etc. I don't know anything about baseball except that my grandfather used to watch it. And, but again, maturity maybe, 20 years under my belt, I felt I could relate to it a lot more this time than last. So after reading that, I ran to the Barnes & Noble because I was hoping that they had an early copy of a book that would was going to be published the next Tuesday. They did. And that book was A Jingle Bell Mingle by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. This is the final book in a trilogy about Christmas Notch, Vermont. And forgot to tell you, I gave this 4 stars. I gave this 4 stars too. This was a fun story. There was a little like, in addition to the romance, there was like a quest to find out the answers of a story. And it all, this, I was reluctant, not reluctant. I was kind of sad to see that the series was ending, but then they tied it up together so perfectly that I was like, you know what? I'm not glad it's ending, but it's ended appropriately, and I can move on and be satisfied that it was a beautiful trilogy. I said I gave this 4 stars. Warning, it is very spicy. I'm usually not one for spice. I did have to skim a little bit, but I like the story and the characters on these so much that I didn't have a problem skimming. I didn't miss anything. What happens when there are no vacancies at the inn and you and your potentially demonic cat become roommates with your grumpy one-night stand? Part-time adult film actress and one-time adult film director and makeup artist Sunny Palmer has accidentally sold her very first screenplay to the Hope Channel. That was 6 months ago. Fast forward to a looming deadline and a floundering Sunny has returned to the source of her inspiration, Christmas Notch, Vermont, to immerse herself in the local Christmas miracle on which her fever dream of a movie pitch was based. Isaac Kelly, former boy band heartthrob and the saddest boy in the music biz, is the latest owner of the town's historic mansion. After putting his record label on hold for years, while he recovered from the heartbreak following the death of his young wife, Isaac has been given an ultimatum: write some new music or lose his contract. What better place to attempt his first solo holiday album than a snow-covered mansion where he can become a hermit in peace? But after their best friend's wedding leads to Sunny and Isaac waking up together in a freezing motel room with questionable wiring and a broken shower, Isaac takes a chance and asks Sunny to stay with him at his home. Surely the place is big enough that he'll hardly see her or her unhinged cat. But when the two discover they're both creatively blocked, they make a handshake deal. Isaac will help Sunny hunt down the truth behind the local lore, that's the fun part, and Sunny will find Isaac a new muse. With these two opposites under one roof, there's no way this Jingle Bell Mingle could go off script, right? Again, I really enjoyed it. I loved them hunting down the story and finally finding out what it was. I continued the week with a book that I gave 3 stars, but other people have raved about. And I wonder, when I read something like this, I enjoyed it. Lately I've been looking for undercurrents of spookiness or something going wrong. And I did the same in this. But when I read a book like this, I wonder, maybe I'm not intellectually smart enough to get the same things that others get out of these books. That is Foster by Claire Keegan. Again, I liked it, and I tabbed it in many places. I feel like I was missing something, and I don't know what it was. If you know what it is that I'm missing, please, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. I just feel like, I don't know, it worked for me. I liked it, but will I remember it? Will I remember it in 10 years? Well, I'm not going to remember anything in 10 years' time, but will I remember it in next year? Will I think about it the next morning when I get up? I'll talk about that later. And the answer on this one is no, I didn't. I'm not sure. So it makes me kind of sad that I don't get it. So after that, I went with another rom-com. This one, again, a 3-star. That was The Christmas You Found Me by Sarah Morgenthaler. I realized I just totally did not do the blurb on Foster, but we're going to move on because apparently, let's blame it on the teeth. This was fine. When single father Guy Maple shows up as... God damn it. It would help if I put my glasses on. I am all over the place today. Forgive me. Again, we'll blame it on the teeth. Sienna Naples' family has taken care of their wild Idaho land for generations, and Sienna can't imagine any other life. But at Christmas time, with her painful marriage finally over, it's full of memories and incredibly lonely, until a tall, handsome stranger and a little girl walk into her life, and suddenly the holidays are alive again. When single father Guy Maple shows up as the result of a joke ad gone awry, he isn't joking. Times have been hard, and Guy's 4-year-old daughter, Emma, needs a kidney transplant. But if Guy can't prove financial stability, she won't stay on the transplant list. Guy's willing to do anything, including marrying a stranger, to save Emma. It's an impulsive marriage of convenience, and Sienna knows this isn't real, no matter how much she adores Emma, how well Guy fits into ranching life, or how much light and laughter is coming into their lives as a result. The more time she spends with her newfound family, the more she fears losing the fragile, feisty little girl and the kind, devoted, hard-working man who is her husband. Is it only in name? It's fine. It was fine. If I wanted to compare the two, Jingle Bell Mingle, Christmas You Found Me, these characters seem more alive to me. These characters are fine. It's a Hallmark movie, but they aren't as engaging as the characters in Jingle Bell Mingle. There's insta-love in both, because what can you do with 300 pages or so? But the attraction in Jingle Bell Mingle felt more organic and natural than the one in The Christmas I Found You. That's all I say, or The Christmas You Found Me. That's all I say about that. There's nothing wrong with The Christmas You Found Me. It is a great light read, especially if you need a palate cleanse. I just enjoyed Jingle Bell Mingle more. Now, next up, I picked up a book for I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. Hispanic Heritage Month? Forgive me if I'm wrong. And that is a book that has been in my TBR for quite some time, What Happened to Ruthy Ramirez by Claire Jiminez. I loved this book. I woke up thinking about it the next morning. I thought about it while I was in the shower. I thought about some things I wanted to say. This is a book about sisters, about family, about grief. It's funny and bittersweet and kind of heartbreaking, and I really enjoyed it. And so that is going to be the litmus test for me on 4 stars and above. Typically, I start a book and I finish it, and then I try not to start another one until the next day. Occasionally, if it's too early on a weekend, I'll start another one right away, but I really should not, because I need to sleep on it. Before I give it a rating, I can mark it as finished, but before I give it a rating, I need to sleep on it. And if I wake up thinking about it the next morning, then that is a good read for me. I should have really wrote some more notes. I did somewhere, and they've run off. Whatever. I can't believe it took me so long to read this. The Ramirez women of Staten Island orbit around absence. When 13-year-old middle child Ruthy disappeared without a trace, it left the family scarred and scrambling. One night, 12 years later, oldest sister Jessica spots a woman on her TV screen in a raunchy reality show. She rushes to tell her younger sister Nina. This woman's hair is dyed red, and she calls herself Ruby, but the beauty mark under her left eye is instantly recognizable. Could it be Ruthy, after all this time? The years since Ruthy's disappearance haven't been easy on the Ramirez family. It's 2008, and their mother Dolores, still struggling with the loss, this is a weird sentence. Jessica juggles a newborn baby with her job, and Nina, after 4 years at college, has returned home to medical school rejections and works at the lingerie store in the mall folding tiny, bedazzled thongs. Awkward sentence. After seeing Maybe Ruthy on their screen, Jessica and Nina hatch a plan to drive to where the show is filmed and find their long-lost sister. When Dolores catches wind of their scheme, she insists on joining, along with her pot-stirring, holy roller best friend, Irene. What follows is a family road trip and reckoning that will force the Ramirez women to finally face the past and look toward a future with or without Ruthy in it. Hope. There's also hope in there, in the midst of despair. Hope that you've found your sister. Yeah, I really found the book moving. I enjoyed it immensely. It dragged maybe a little bit, but again, my new litmus test is, do I wake up thinking about it the next morning? And for the next book, the final book of the week, The Devil and Mrs. Davenport by Paulette Kennedy, I did, but I also downgraded this to 3 stars because it too dragged, and not in the most pleasant way. I found out that I could put it down and not want to pick it back up again. Could have been, something going on with me. I did enjoy it. I just didn't enjoy it 4 stars worth. This has a gothic feel, and it's set in the mid-50s and in Missouri. And it, on the one hand, it resonated because I've had dealings with evangelical Christians, not quite to this extent, but people who are extreme in their beliefs. And this highlights all the ways, especially in that time, that women were restricted in their ability to have their own checking account, make their own money, do anything without their husband's permission. And I don't want to spoil it, but there is something that happens midway that reminded me of a nonfiction book I read a couple months ago. The midway part was also a point for me, a down point for me. It was rather abrupt. And so I feel like something happens and I didn't know what happened. Maybe that's symbolic of what she had to go through, but it was too abrupt for me, and that negatively affected my reading experience. But that's not to say it's not a good book. The first day of autumn brought the fever, and with the fever came the voices. Missouri, 1955. Loretta Davenport has led an isolated life as a young mother and wife to Pete, an ambitious assistant professor at a Bible college. They're the picture of domestic tranquility until a local girl is murdered and Loretta begins receiving messages from the beyond. Pete dismisses them as delusions of a fevered female imagination. Loretta knows they're real and frightening. Defying Pete's demands, Loretta finds an encouraging supporter in parapsychologist Dr. Curtis Hanson. He sees a woman with a rare gift, more blessing than curse. With Dr. Hanson's help, Loretta's life opens up to an empowering new purpose. But for Pete, the God-fearing image he's worked so hard to cultivate is under threat. No longer in control of his dutiful wife, he sees the devil at work. As Loretta's powers grow stronger and the pleading spirits beckon, Pete is determined to deliver his wife from evil. To solve the mysteries of the dead, Loretta must first save herself. Okay, that completes my, sorry I'm shaking the table, weekend books for the final full week of September 2024. I started a book last night, The Women Could Fly by Megan Giddings. I read maybe 20 pages, maybe. And this morning I was thinking about it and I realized that I did not want to go on, and so I won't. I'm going to DNF that. I originally was going to finish that and then do my weekend books, but it's best to start with a clean slate on a new week. So on the nonfiction side, I am still reading Army Wives. I am determined to finish this. I've got this much more before the end of the month, so I can check this off my September read list. This is fun. It is, some things are very relatable from the military standpoint and living in a military town. Again, I really intend to finish it. I'm listening to, still, Stephen King's You Like It Darker. I have one more story in this. The Answer Man, it's about 2 hours left on audio, but that much in the book. I could finish it right now, but I've got chores to do today now that the boil water notice is over. So I'm going to put this on and play it while I'm wandering around the house doing chores. Hopefully get that finished so I can start October when I get my Audible credit with something new. Not sure what it'll be now. Let's see. I take notes. On the fiction side, I'm going to try to finish September with, so it's the 28th, 29th, 30th. I'll probably get 2 more books in. The first one I'm going to read is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I bought this series a while back, and I know I did it in a book haul. This is YA, but after a DNF, I always need something to kind of lift me up. In The Naturals, cold cases are about to get hot. 17-year-old Cassie Hobbs is a natural at reading people. Piecing together the tiniest details, she can tell you who you are and what you want. But it's not a skill that she's ever taken seriously. That is, until the FBI comes knocking. They've begun a classified program that uses exceptional teenagers to crack infamous cold cases, and they need Cassie. What Cassie doesn't realize is that there's more at risk than a few unsolved homicides, especially when she's sent to live with a group of teens whose gifts are as unusual as her own. Soon, it becomes clear that no one in the Naturals program is what they seem, and when a new killer strikes, danger looms close. Caught in a lethal game of cat and mouse with the killer, the Naturals are going to have to use all their gifts just to survive. I look forward to starting that. I will read that on breaks between chores. And the final book I hope to get in is one I bought last week, and I think I did a book haul on it last week. I was inspired to pick this up by Greg over at Supposedly Fun, and I put it down and I thought, oh, I'll read it sometime. But then yesterday, Friday the 27th, along with the boiled water, the hurricane, and the dentist, I found out that Maggie Smith had passed away. If you don't know who Maggie Smith is, she played, oh Lord, I forgot the name of the professor in Harry Potter. Shit. I forgot the character's name. The older woman teacher, wise, like a mentor to Harry and the crew. Anywho, she also starred in a movie called The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. I book hauled this last week, I believe, so I'm not going to read the back of this to you guys, but I hope to get in these last 2. Not sure what I'm going to do for October fiction or nonfiction or audio yet. I will cross that bridge and probably discuss it in my September monthly reading recap, which we'll post on Wednesday. Anywho, that is it for me. Thank you for putting up with my weird looking teeth and my or whatever, and my pronunciation issues, it's still really a little bit achy too, so that does not help things at all. As always, I will put links to these books in the description box below to bookshop.org. You can buy them there, support a local bookstore. If you do buy them there, I might get a little kickback. I have not yet. Do not expect anything of substance, but it really is about supporting your local bookstore. I hope you've had a good reading week. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. I do listen to, read, and respond to your comments, and several commenters have given me inspiration or food for thought for other videos, like the one that we'll be posting tomorrow on Book Talk Tuesday. Again, that is it for me. Happy reading!